Hey, everybody, good afternoon. Welcome to this week's edition of Artist Alchemy. This is where we come together with not just artists, but culture leaders, culture bearers, and lots of interesting folks in the community and talk about all those great things going on. Our special guest this week is Ron Yoshimura. He's a member of the board of the Marysville Japanese American Citizens League, and happy to have you here. Hey, Ron.
Thank you for inviting me.
No, we're delighted. I got to know Ron this last couple of years working on the Arboga Assembly Center project. We'll be talking more about that a little later on. But Ron, back to you. So again, welcome, and how are you doing during these crazy COVID times?
Basically, I'm retired, and my wife's got a lot of honeydew projects for me.
Oh, okay. So you're keeping
And
busy at home.
and per previous conversation, I worked during the summertime in peach harvest for a food processor.
Were you able to do that last year during COVID?
Yes, there was
You,
no problem.
so you weren't stuck in an office somewhere. You're outside, and
That's the way I like it.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
good safe way to do
Basically,
it.
I coordinate the peach harvest. We send it down to our facility in Modesto.
Okay, and that's part of your work with Del Monte Foods.
Right, coordinating the growers' harvest and and sending it down to our processing facility in Modesto.
And you kind of made a career out of that, right?
I've been in with the food processors probably for 40 plus years
Wow.
with various food processors, not with just Del Monte. So it's kind of started in early 70s, right out of college.
Gee.
And I'm not going to age myself and tell you
No,
about
no, please, yeah, we won't do that. Not this show. That's a different program. And you grew up here, right? You're a
born and
native
raised
born?
in this area.
Okay. Unlike us newcomers, I've only been here 12 years, so I feel like I'm still kind of the new kid in town because there's so many of you that grew up here and created careers here and stayed put. You were gone for a little bit though, right?
I was gone for 3 or 4 years. I worked in Merced area, and then I moved back to the area after that. So I've
Yeah.
been here all my life, except for that 3 year time frame.
Wow. Um, so looking back, I mean, you touched on your career. So growing up here, I'm always intrigued to hear stories folks tell. But I mean, what were like some of your childhood memories? I mean, you were right here in the area. I mean, what'd you do as a kid? Were you fishing, hunting,
Uh,
sports? What'd you do?
my dad was a peach farmer, and I did a lot of fishing and hunting, but we're doing a lot of work on the ranch. He didn't have a big ranch, but up until I was through high school and college, I worked on the peach ranch, and then after that, I went into was hired by food processors. So I've
Okay,
worked for food processors from college on.
good place to grow up.
Very nice.
I love it here. I had a chance to come back to California. I'm from Los Angeles originally, and then I was back in Washington D.C. for 20 years. And company I worked with at the time, medical equipment company, a chance to come back to California opened up, and I'd been here visiting over the years. I had a couple of friends in the area, but grew up in LA and never really came up here. And so then I got to know the area back in the late 2006, 2007, and wound up moving here. Bought a house in 2008, and then moved here in 2009. So but I love it, absolutely love it. Kind of the big city kid comes out to the country. And I love to fish and hunt and all of that too. So
Well, you can fish, hunt, and then you're also centralized. You could be skiing, go to the east and go skiing.
yep,
Go to the west and be at the ocean.
yep,
Very well
absolutely.
centralized.
And just even Sacramento's been kind of a discovery for me because growing up in LA, we go to San Francisco, we go to San Diego. I think once or twice growing up, I came up to Sacramento for one reason or another. I had friends from college that came up here to work afterwards, but never really spent any time here. But now that I've been here, and Sacramento's a great town too. Lots of
Mhm.
opportunities.
Right.
Been a lot of fun. So you're more or less retired. You said you do come out and help out during peach harvest, and working on your honeydew list, right?
Right.
But you did get involved with the Marysville Japanese American Citizens League, and I did a little bit of research. I know the national group's been around since the teens or 20s, right?
1926 was the JCL was established.
So 100-year anniversary coming up.
Right.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. And is it, what was the original premise? Do you know? I'm not trying to quiz you here. Was it just to celebrate Japanese culture and keep the culture alive?
No, I think part of their mission statement has been to the civil rights for the Japanese Americans and for injustice and bigotry. That's their mission statement.
Even in the beginning, in the 20s, long before World War II and that whole debacle, huh?
Right. Part of it was, I think it all came over from the discrimination as workers.
Yes. Okay. Wow, that long ago.
Not quite slavery, but they came over as the Chinese came over as railroad workers, and Japanese also came over and worked and immigrated to California.
Okay. No, fascinating. I had no idea that was part of the original premise. Then you've been part of the local JACL for quite a while.
Quite a few years, 40 years, but I've only been on the board for the last 5 years.
Okay, so you were
more involvement. I was more just a member for 40 plus years, and then the last 5 I've gotten involved with the board of directors.
Well,
I'm on the executive council.
Okay. Well, yeah, it's been fascinating working with you and others on the board and learning more about the local chapter and looking at some of the archival material that you've got. And it's just amazing. It's such a great, rich collection of photographs. The next grant that we're going to work on is to help digitize a lot of that material and preserve it, and also acquire some more educational material for future generations for Day of Remembrance events and that kind of thing. So once we get the park done, then we can start working on that.
Yeah, we work pretty closely with the Sutter County Museum with Jessica there.
Jessica
starting to develop a lot of historical information. We've taken pictures over there, and I think there's some archives in there too.
She's been a chief collaborator in this this second grant, particularly to help archive and digitize that material. But she's been just such a tremendous asset for the community, and we just really enjoy working with her too. So
I don't know about this year, but I know she's helped us in February for a Day of Remembrance, celebrating the whole month of February.
Yes,
with presentations and everything.
And I've been to events there. Of course, this year it's all virtual, so we're going to put together a video with various speakers. In fact, Jessica is going to contribute at least some section about the various ethnic displays that are at the museum, focusing on the exhibit that features the Japanese American experience here locally. So, why did you choose to get involved in leadership at the JACL? Was it just time? You had enough time, having retired?
I had enough time. I was pretty busy before I retired.
Yeah.
So once I retired, I decided to get more involved.
Well, we're glad you did. You know, we've just got to find those young people now. We were talking earlier about this, and any of our organizations that, whether it's the Chinese community and the Bakai parade committees, and there's only so much we can do, and we're just always looking for those younger folks for whatever the organization is to help sustain it, right?
Right. We're having a very difficult time with youngsters, recruiting them for the JCL because they're no longer here. They go away to college and don't come back to this area.
So you don't know the secret sauce to make those young people sign up, huh?
Big city life.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, that's not what we're about. But
yeah,
get married, raise kids, good place to be, right? Great school. Oh, what a challenge! What a challenge. So I know we've talked about this a little bit before the show, and I don't know that your experience is unique, but talk about what you heard, if anything, growing up about the World War II experience and the internment camps. What was your family's experience?
Very, very quiet. Not much conversation about that. Basically, referred to as just camp, and then no follow through. No elaboration from there.
Your family were in the camps or a camp?
My mother was from the Bay Area, and she was in camp. Yeah, that's where she met my dad from Marysville, and they met at Tule Lake and married. And my older sister was born in camp.
Did they marry actually while they were in camp?
Yes, they met at camp and married.
So they could actually do that, perform a wedding
Oh
ceremony.
yeah, there was like little cities in these camps.
That's kind of what I gather,
Right.
Although I've heard so many Japanese Americans refer to them as concentration camps. So um, when I'm talking to people that don't know anything about it, I go, well, it's not like a concentration camp in Germany, but still, when you look at the economic loss, the hardship, I mean, it wasn't fancy living by any means, but there were
Well,
some amenities, right?
yeah, there were amenities, but there were barbed wire, guard
Right.
towers,
Yeah.
soldiers, armed soldiers.
Big boys with guns and stuff. Yeah.
Right. That's you know, you didn't have the freedom.
Exactly. And all that stuff about the citizenship oath, and oh my gosh, it's just the more you learn about it, it's just really hard.
Yeah, I historically I haven't really know the percentage wise, but I'd say the vast majority of them were American citizens.
Yes, no, I've read that. You're absolutely right. Absolutely right. Do you think your family kept it from you just to, I don't know, protect you somehow, and just didn't need to burden you with those stories? Any idea?
I think you're kind of right in there, but they just didn't want to talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
They wanted to put it behind themselves.
Sure. And yeah, when I heard that, I was reminded of some of the veterans we've worked with who just don't want to talk about it, don't want to think about it, and they move forward in life and do the best they can. So, so do you know what happened when they came back, when they got out of camp, and so now they're married, they've got a young child? Did they settle right back into ag? Do you know the status of family property? Were they able to get going again?
Scratch. They
were
ground and worked in ag, and then developed and bought their own ranches over the years.
So,
but there were people in the area that their neighbors had maintained their properties, and it turned over. But my mom and dad started from scratch.
Wow! So lost everything and had to begin all over.
Wow. Well, they didn't have anything, because they weren't married until.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. That's right. They got married in camp. So,
right.
So they created that family unit and then just built it from there. Wow. Mm-hmm. Pretty remarkable. So not much else as far as the parents passing or the family passing that on. And I think you've told me that you grew up fairly in a fairly safe environment, not a lot of no sense of discrimination or.
No, I went to grammar school. Went to high school. I went to grammar school at Berry School, south of town. Went to Yuba City High School. I played 4 years of football and baseball at Yuba City High School. 2 years at Yuba College, played football, and then went to Sacramento State. And I felt no discrimination. I hate to say it, but
was there? Well, that was your experience. I don't, it's everybody's life is different. Was there a large community for you growing up of other Japanese American young people, or?
We had a pretty large community. I'd say, well, I don't know what you want to call it large, but I had, 15 or 20 friends, but, in the area, it was pretty close knit, involved through the church and everything, Buddhist church. We had quite a bit of organization there.
Were you part of the church growing up?
Yes.
Oh, you were. Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah.
And I know your wife Jenny's been involved, been on the board until recently. And okay, I didn't realize you had a long affiliation.
And the JCL in the years when I was growing up, they were a pretty good sized organization. There used to be an annual picnic. All the Japanese families going to it up in the hills every spring.
Oh, nice. Yeah. In fact, I think I've seen pictures of that. That was an annual event. Yeah. Well, that gives me another reason to like this area. I tell people it's, compared to some of the other rural counties around us, we really have a tremendously diverse population. And that's not the case with, other counties. And again, as a big city kid from LA and Washington, D.C., I'm used to a lot of diversity, and that's what, for me, makes it interesting and fun and really enjoyable to be part of such a big, open-minded community. And I describe this to other people that don't know Yuba Sutter, and And I'm really glad to hear you share that, that you grew up in that kind of environment that was positive and supportive, and just gives me another, like I said, another reason to like where I've chosen to live. Um, so what have you seen any other changes in your lifetime as far as how Japanese Americans are treated? You feel like we're making progress, or any take on current events, or anything you'd like to share there?
No, I haven't. I mean, I don't know. I feel maybe I've led a sheltered life, but I haven't seen much discrimination at all.
Yeah, yeah, good. It's yeah, kind of business as usual, and it's what you've been used to, and
Right.
you put out that vibe, and I guess it comes back to you in a positive way. Um, so we've talked a lot about the Arboga. Well, let's see. I know the name we've kind of put on it is the Arboga Assembly Center Memorial Site, or Memorial Park, and Interpretive Center. We're going to talk a little bit more about that now, but it's a location out on Broadway in Arboga, just south of Marysville, the old Swedish colony that was there. And now you, even though you were a JACL member, were you involved at all with the dedication ceremony 10 years ago?
Not really. I was pretty much involved with my job situation.
Yeah, you were working.
And that was in in February of
2010?
2010? Yeah, 2010.
Yeah, literally. So again, I wasn't here, or I had just moved here and wasn't aware of it, but I've since looked at the program. The dedication was really based, I think, on the fact that the state of California had declared that location a historic landmark.
Right.
California State Historic Landmark. The bronze plaque, those cool historic landmark plaques that you pull over and read by the side of the road, that had been created. And then Mr. Mullican and his rock company had donated a big piece of Yuba Blue Rock, and the plaque was mounted, recessed into that boulder, and it was out there. I guess they brought it out on a truck for the dedication ceremony, and then they took it back to the parking lot of the Buddhist church and crated it up, and it's been sitting there for 10 years. So I'd heard about the ceremony and the historic site, which, for those who may be listening and don't know, back in the 30s, this location on Broadway was a migrant farm workers camp. And I think there were some temporary structures, maybe some barracks that were still remaining. The federal government got involved and quickly turned it into a temporary, what were called assembly centers. There were a number of these around the state, and these were temporary housing for Japanese Americans that were told to report. And a lot of the folks that were held there were from Placer and Sacramento County. And about 2,500 folks, starting in early 1942, were held there for several months, while the more permanent internment camps were being built. And a lot of those folks wound up at Tule Lake internment camp up near the Oregon border. So that location, after this dedication ceremony, after the declaration of it, the location as a historic landmark, it just sort of sat empty for a while. And I think the JACL and others involved were just trying to figure out what to do. The original site's across the street from the location that we've used to develop this site, because it's private property and not available. So right across the street, literally, is land owned by the Marysville Joint Unified School District, who 10 years ago and most recently this last year entered into a memo of understanding with us to allow, and us being YubaSutterArts&Culture and the JACL, to develop this as a memorial site to commemorate and remember and educate people about what went on there in terms of, civil liberties violations. So what we've done is, under the direction of the JACL, create a place where, if you knew absolutely nothing about the internment of Japanese Americans during World War II, if you can spend 20 to 30 minutes with us, read the murals. We're going to show you some pictures here in just a minute, and kind of experience a little bit of what that might have been like with this place that we've developed. So let's take a look at the picture.
Well, getting back to something.
Yeah,
David, you also have put the rock out there, so if people are interested in look, I think you've got it in this mural here.
it's there now. Yeah,
Yeah, it's there now. If people are interested. It's uncrated.
Yep. We uncrated it.
Rock.
Uncrated it a few weeks ago. We were kind of going back and forth about whether it was safe to put it out there or not. It's a nice, big, beautiful piece of bronze, and hopefully people will respect it and leave it in place. But there was concern about putting it out there, and we finally got the go ahead from the JACL, so we appreciate that. And it's really, you can see it. It's kind of the centerpiece there. But this is what you'll see from Broadway, looking, excuse me, into the park. This is the entryway with posts and this is barbless barbed wire. So folks entering the site won't be punctured by nasty barbed wire. But around the entire perimeter on the backside is barbed wire that we've put in just to kind of differentiate the space, keep ATVs out of it. But that rock, all 10,000 pounds of it, was a major challenge getting it out there. This was literally just this morning. We got another 16 tons of gravel delivered to create the pathway so that when you come into the park, you kind of walk the loop around the backside of the steel barracks. Those are those large metal structures. This is our barbed wire crew that spent a day and a half out there running over 300 feet of barbed wire and repairing some of the old vintage barbed wire that's along the row right there under the eucalyptus trees. We left any of the historic barbed wire intact that we could, but they helped create that kind of entryway into the park. We got all the gravel spread, and that's the dump truck. Tomorrow we're putting up a couple of more murals. These are kiosks that were created 10 years ago as well, meant to hold information signs. Those will be set permanently tomorrow, so they won't blow over in the next windstorm like happened 2 weeks ago. And the sign will, there's kind of a declaration about what the location is about, as well as a thank you to our sponsors and supporters, all the folks that have helped get the project to this point. This is at the very back corner, just to try to give a sense of these, as you mentioned, Ron, the guard towers that we've all heard about with armed soldiers. And it sort of creates a little bit of that oppressive atmosphere. Of course, nothing like the real thing, but just to give visitors a sense of what that might have been like, being watched 24/7 under armed guard. That's a close-up of the actual plaque. It was nice to uncrate that boulder and the plaque, and we gave it a good bath before we took it out there. And thank goodness we had Lawson Dredge from West Sac come out, and they're professional heavy equipment moving company, and they did a great job of getting that piece out there safely and putting it in place. And they had to build a whole bridge of 3 layers of plywood from the street out to the center of the park in order to drive their 7-ton forklift along while holding that rock and plaque in a sling. So it's going like this as they inched it out to the center of the park. So it was quite a project. That was when they were just taking it off the truck before they put the sling around it. So there we are in the middle of Broadway, blocking traffic. It's quite a project, and again, we're just so pleased to have been able to help out. We found a grant from the California State Library almost 2 years ago now. We got an extension because of COVID, but it was basically to provide funding. This particular grant is to provide funding to help somehow memorialize and preserve anything historic related to the Japanese American experience during World War II. It's what's called their Civil Liberties Grant, and it's specifically for this kind of work. So between building the park and helping preserve digitally the archives that the JACL has, working in collaboration with the Sutter County Museum, it's quite an undertaking. So we're very thankful for that funding that we were able to bring into the community to help with this project. We're scheduled to have an official dedication again so in October. I forget the exact date, but we'll get the dignitaries out again like you did 10 years ago, or or like we're out there. We had when I look at the program, it was like a who's who of Yuba Sutter and other leadership in Northern California. So we'll do that again. In the meantime, we're going to be doing some drone photography on Friday and working with our friend Stony Meager, doing a couple of interviews out at the site. And you're encouraged to take a drive-by when you're, need a little outing and you want to see a new historic landmark, or not new, but at least a landmark that's got an experience for you to enjoy and appreciate and learn from. Head out to Arboga, right on Broadway between Feather River Boulevard and David Lane are kind of the coordinates I use to get people to the site. So, and I'm anxious for you to get out and see it, Ron, now that we're just about done.
Yeah, I saw the beginnings of it. So I'll probably go out there in the next couple of days. Also, you were mentioning something about the Appeal Democrat, their article on the 19th, was it?
Yep, 18th, actually. I'm told hope springs eternal unless we get bumped for something else. I should say the Appeal Democrat's a tremendous supporter and promoter of all things in terms of arts and culture in the community. We very much appreciate that. But a week from Thursday, the 18th, the Arboga Assembly Center project should be featured on the front of Spotlight. That's the weekly kind of arts and entertainment supplement to the Appeal Democrat. So look for that. And then on the 19th, that's when we'll be streaming our virtual Day of Remembrance event with guest speakers, including Congressman John Garamendi, Lon Hadamia, another native of Marysville, who went on to hold state office and now has the Hadamia Consulting Group. He's doing a lot of work in Yuba County and all over the state. Really another wonderful supporter. Walter Masuda, he's a JACL board member and former dean at Yuba College. He's going to be speaking. Jessica Haugen's going to contribute a video. So it'll be a real, a great virtual program. Not as fun as getting together with everybody and seeing some things in person, but we're going to have a great list of guest speakers and then some other video clips we're going to bring into the program. I'm sure we'll have an appearance by George Takei, who was, along with his family, interred at Tule Lake as well. And there's some great video of him touring that site. So about a 45 to 50-minute program, well worth your while. You can watch that live at 6 o'clock on the 19th at Yuba Sutter Arts Facebook page or on our YouTube channel. And of course, the beauty of these programs is you can watch it anytime afterwards at your convenience. So anybody's interested, go to YouTube, Yuba Sutter Arts channel, and you can look up any of our past programs, including this one, Ron. I'm going to send you the link afterwards to share with family and friends, and they can experience our conversation. Also,
we're with the JCL. We're hopefully planning a pretty good sized, gigantic dedication ceremony in October. If all of this situation at present clears up, we're hoping to have a large dedication ceremony.
Do you think when does remind me, I've only been twice. When does the Oban Festival usually happen there in the parking lot?
July.
That's summer. Okay, that's midsummer.
Right.
So it's iffy too. Because that's that mural that we did. When we were planning that, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, imagine when the taiko drummers are here and the dancers, and that is the backdrop.
Mm-hmm.
I remember sitting there a few years ago going, that wall needs a mural. And look what happened.
Got one.
If you haven't seen what we're talking about, right there on B Street on the wall, the north-facing wall adjacent to the Buddhist church, right off the parking lot, there is a 125-foot mural done this last year by Madeline Templeton, local artist, and she just did a beautiful job of kind of depicting, part of the Japanese-American story in America. And it's a beautiful, beautiful mural. We're very proud of that. And as a backdrop for other cultural events like the Oban Festival, I think it'll just be spectacular.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
In fact, I was
Hopefully
so excited.
We'll have the Oban Festival.
That too.
Right.
I was so excited. I had a photographer friend actually take the mural and a couple of pictures I had of Oban, and I had them put them together to look like it was really happening, with the mural in the background. It was, Photoshopped image, but it kind of gave me a chuckle because I said, that's what I want to see, except the real thing.
Your visual.
Yes, I know. I love it. Speaking of which, so we touched on the mural. Yeah, do go by and see that, because that was also part of this grant from the state library. I don't know what else. Any thoughts? What do you want to pass on to future generations?
Well, we got to pass. I think this is going to be pass this on to future generations, so this quote unquote situation is not forgotten. There is nothing in the history books. I mean, very little blurb or anything. So this site in Narboga is going to be something for the history books.
No,
pass on to future generations.
Well, I was going to say, and why should we care about this location? Why is it important? I think it's for that exact reason. It's to never forget.
Right.
What happened there, and going forward for the future. What did we forget?
I think we pretty much covered everything, David.
Yeah. Well, here's to our next project. We were already talking. I was talking to Rich and Haruko out there today at the Assembly Center, and we said, we need a couple of benches so people can sit and relax, and maybe a picnic area over there under the trees, and maybe we want to do something on the back of the barracks silhouettes that where people can put up a sign that in memory of kind of a thing. I think it'll evolve, which I like it. We've got the bones there,
right, and we can build from that now.
I think so. Yeah, it's a good story, and yet it's got a lot of future potential. So
right.
Yeah. In fact, Rich and Haruko want to start planting poppy seeds and get some flowers going. And I told them we've got a grant to plant a bunch of trees in South Yuba County. I wish we had a water source out there because we could put a little grove of Japanese maples or something. But I don't have water, so it's
right. You don't want to put that much money out there and have them die on you with no water.
I know, it would be nice, but who knows? Maybe we'll figure out a way to do that. We saw a little water tank next door in the lot, the empty lot next door. So anything's possible. So many people have been a part of this project. You'll see the whole thank you board when you visit the site. It's going up tomorrow. We should at least mention how this all got started as far as the practical aspects of this park. And the concept was developed by Stuart Gilchrist, who's an artist, designer, and of course now a Marysville City Councilman. Stuart's been a key part of this project from the very beginning. Came up with this idea. We've kind of built onto it, added to it. But he got it started with these three metal silhouettes you saw in those pictures. They're large, heavy steel structures that kind of echo the shape of the barracks that were not just at the assembly centers, but also the internment camps. And each one has a cutout in it, a laser cut. The first one's the Sutter Buttes, the middle one's California, the back one's the United States, continental U.S. And so that basic concept that Stuart had come up with, along with the barbed wire entrance that you saw in some of those earlier pictures, it really gave us, I think, the foundation to build on. I should also mention Dan Turner. He's the head of the welding department at Yuba College. He and his students actually created those metal structures, and he engineered them so that they weigh 5,000 pounds apiece. They're not going anywhere. So no metal theft when it comes to those pieces. And they're set out there on huge 10-inch I-beams, and just they really stand out. You're driving down the road and you go, what the heck is that? And it's unavoidable when you're out that way. And I think people are going to go and see it. They're going to want to visit it. There's a lot there to experience, and that's what we were hoping to achieve. So, well, if that's it, then we'll look forward to seeing you out at Arboga. Tune in on the 19th for our virtual Day of Remembrance event to learn a little bit more about this experience, and we'll take it from there. Ron, thank you so much for taking time to be with us.
Thank you for inviting me.
See, it went pretty well, didn't it?
Pretty good.
Yeah, no, it was fantastic. I learned something every time we talk. I want to thank our technical support team, our producer, Abby Cecina, technical director, Alex Cecina. In 2 weeks, we're doing this every other week now. Let me just get my notes so I get it right. On February 23rd, you're actually going to have guest hosts two, not one, but two, Alex Cecina and Shantae Arroyo, who's our YubaSutter Arts and Education Coordinator and does a lot of other things too. They're going to have some friends on talking about the extremely popular and decades-old game called Dungeons and Dragons. It's got a whole new life. There are virtual programs and even board games when I was in college, and it's been around a long time. That'll be a fun conversation, even if you're not a gamer. I look forward to it. So until then, that's it for this week's Artist Alchemy.
Okay.
A lot more virtual events coming up at YubaSutter Arts on Facebook and YouTube, and just follow us on social media. If you don't do that stuff, go to the website, YubaSutterArts.org. And if you don't do that, go to the paper. Those of us who still read the newspaper, again, thanks to the Appeal Democrat, they cover all of our stuff. It's there. There's something going on, a couple things every week. So thanks for the support, everybody, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. Thanks again, Ron.
Thanks, David.